We all wish we could bring our Disney vacation home with us, right? To have that Disney feeling every day? Well, why not start your day the Disney way with a Disney blend from Joffrey's Coffee and Tea Company? With over 23 varieties to choose from the French bistro you find in your resort room to the Yachtsman Steakhouse and Jico, of course, and now Joffrey's newest Disney blend, Le Cellier. Why not start your day with that Disney magic? Order yours today at Joffreys.com.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
We're now passing one of the newest additions to the Disney Vacation Club, Bay Lake Tower at Disney's Contemporary Resort.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott. Wow.
And I'm Bob Collar.
This is the gateway to the magic. This is episode 999.
Don't fall for all that. Don't fall for that. This is Tim Scott. This is ResortLoop.com. You can already tell it's the DVC Roundtable show. This is episode 423. Bob, are you with us today?
Is this the April Fool's show? What is going on?
It sure sounds like it. I don't even know what's going on.
All fools here.
I was ready to shut it all down. I thought, well, I'm done.
Shut it down.
I've heard that before.
Anyway, Tim, yes, this is our wonderful DVC Roundtable. If folks haven't figured that out by now.
No, they knew it out of the box.
So I'm not even going to ask you what are we going to talk about today, Tim. I'm just going to let you start us off.
All right, this is the exciting DVC Roundtable show. Joining us is Rebecca Toon.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
I think other people are listening, Emily. We better keep going. Emily Hansa Hicks is here.
Hey, howdy, hey.
Very nice. And Joe Quattrochi.
What's going on, Looper Nation?
And what's a DVC Roundtable without Mr. Brad Coates?
Greetings and salivations.
Wow. That got awkward real quick.
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
It's a piece of candy. I'm eating a piece of candy.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Whew. Thanks for clearing that up there, Brad. Tim.
Yes.
How are we starting the show? We got the regular cast of characters, the usual suspects, as we say.
That's right.
How are we starting today? We starting the same way as we always do?
Well, we're a little bit different.
News?
Before we get to the news, before we get to a question, and before we get to the DVC Spotlight Resort, we have a comment off the website.
Oh, very good.
This is from Phil Reese. He said, I want to add an additional perspective for the people considering DVC ownership. The key word is the last one. You're not paying for 50 years of hotel stays. You're becoming a property owner in Florida. With property ownership comes costs. Examples are maintenance, insurance, the fact that the room is made up only once while you stay. He said, and then all that is wrapped up into the annual charge. It is important to factor this in as it helps when writing that check. Even in the years you are not using the property, it is still an asset. You can even include it in your will and pass it down to your children. He says if you can afford it, I would highly recommend it. It has given us years of joy and a sense of pride in an ownership of a family vacation property. He said, lastly, this is just for me, keep the top 10 list. I love it. See, Bob? He said, it should be a regular bit from time to time. Thanks, and that's Phil. Phil, thank you very much. It'll pop in occasionally. Yes.
The top 10 ways to irritate Bob. Number one, the top 10 list. No, that's right. Gondolas are number one. Number two, top 10 list from Tim. All right. Well, Phil, thank you so much.
Phil.
That was very nice. Yeah.
I think he's right. It is really something that sets your Disney vacations apart. In fact, this summer we're adding a couple of days to our vacation, and if we were doing it with cash, we wouldn't do it. But because we have the points, we just sort of like seamlessly did it. We're able to get cheaper airfare, and we're able to stay in Disney World for a couple extra nights and save money actually that we would be giving the airlines otherwise. So it really is like having vacations in the bank and an asset in a way that, reservations just aren't.
That's good. Great point. Awesome. Well, I think it's time to jump into the news. Emily, are you going to start us off today?
Sure will.
Fantastic.
All right. So I have the exciting privilege of telling you about the annual DVC condo meeting. The 2017 DVC annual meeting will be held on Thursday, December 7th. This is pretty standard timing for them, early December. Time and location have not yet been determined. The Condo Association meeting is the yearly meeting where the Disney Vacation Club Board of Directors meets to ratify certain program changes and approve the budgets for the coming year. The event occasionally hints to future DVC and theme park projects, and it is sometimes live tweeted, so you can look for that if you're interested. And I cannot remember the Twitter handle right now, but there are people that go there, and it is free to attend. All DVC members are invited. Obviously, not all go. And there sometimes is a Q&A session. Sometimes they let you know beforehand if there's going to be a Q&A session. It probably depends on what they have planned for the year or how hostile they think the audience is. But anyway, I have enjoyed. Yeah, go ahead.
I know it says that the time and location haven't been determined yet, but is it usually at a DVC location, or is it like the like Disney stockholders where they move it all over the country?
So if I recall correctly, and please, if you guys know better, let me know. I feel like it's usually in the convention spaces. At Walt Disney World? Yes. Yep.
Okay.
At least that's been my experience watching it happen. I can get more information for next month because we have a couple months before it's going to happen. So, but yeah, typically I think it's in a larger convention space because they plan on letting people ask questions, and they do plan on large crowds.
Okay, and you said you've watched it before on the webinar or whatever you want to call it.
Yes, I've watched the Twitter live tweeting. So
okay,
people will. It's
kind
of
like
like
Facebook Live that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you could, or Periscope. Well, it depends on whether or not they let press.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So is it something that you would be worth maybe going to if you're down there on vacation?
I think if I was on vacation, I'd certainly go. But then again, I'm a nerd, and I would really enjoy that. But I mean, just sort of like the bar or the last commenter said, it is, you do own a part of the property, and I think I would like to be there at least once in my life if it's convenient to do so. It's probably not worth flying in for me, but if I was there in early December, I would absolutely make time to go. If not just to get some FaceTime with the people that run the organization and sort of get an idea of whether or not, sometimes you just get a gut feeling about whether or not you have a lot of confidence in the group. And I've never, I made my decisions based on research, but I didn't really get to meet the people face to face that run the organization. So that would be kind of cool to meet them or see them.
Very good. Very good. Anybody else have a desire to attend the members meeting?
I agree. I agree with Emily. If I was down there for it, I would pop in for, I've actually been to the membership meetings for my family's timeshare in Aruba. And it was actually pretty cool to actually hear all of the behind the scenes. And I didn't understand all the numbers, but hearing about all the projects that were coming up, and it answered a lot of questions that, if you're listening to this show, you might want to know about. So if I was down there, I would probably pop in just for an hour or two, or just however long it was, just to see what it's like. I mean, I agree with Emily. Yeah.
All right.
Nice. It's not a vacation unless you go to a keynote.
That's right.
That's right.
There may be some complimentary Joffreys there.
There should be.
That's for everybody.
There you go.
And it looks like Disney's Contemporary. I'm looking at 2011. It was at the Contemporary Resort, and then they had a separate one for Aulani in Hawaii.
Of course.
So, yeah, but it was in the Convention Center in 2011, and I'm trying to find more updated ones, but that's for all I've got so far.
Soon to be in the shadow of another. Oh my goodness! An angel got their wings. Of another 15-story tower.
Nice.
Oops, that was work. Sorry, guys.
Coronado Springs hosted one, it looks like, in 2016, maybe.
Okay. Fantastic. Love it. Let's see. Rebecca, do you have a story for us?
I do. I have a rather lengthy story, so bear with me. So
wait a minute, real quick before. So you're blowing off work.
That's what I heard. I was going to kind of let that go.
To read a DVC story for us. That is outstanding.
That might be a first.
Priority.
That's a commitment. That is a commitment right there.
And she's a heart surgeon, too, so that's bad.
Tomorrow, if her boss actually listens to the show.
I feel like it is notable for you to say that, since I just introduced my boss to this podcast.
Hello, Mr. Boss.
Now, wait a minute. Now, it is after hours. Let's make that very clear.
It's well after hours.
After hours, and it was. I'm actually a really good multitasker, so I'm going to take care of both at the same time.
What's your boss's number? We'll just take care of this during the show. We'll call him.
Rebecca, multitasking is a lie, and we all know it.
I have to quit my job.
Thank you,
to pay for our DVC, future DVC.
And what he's thinking right now is, didn't she just leave work 7 minutes ago?
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. The highway
So
patrol
Rebecca's
was
boss.
very nice.
This is what you're funding, Rebecca's boss. This is what you're funding. Her Disney habit.
Yeah.
It's not drugs.
Not drugs. So actually, I'm going to give you some more information about the new Copper Creek. If you're from the South, it could be Copper
Creek. The creek. Yeah, down in there, down at the creek.
If you hear banjos, I'm just saying. No, so the new Copper Creek Villas at Wilderness Lodge, which has been all the rave here lately. So they will actually begin selling on March 8th if you're a current DVC member. And then general sales will open up on April 5th, as a matter of fact. So, as many of you already know, the Copper Creek Villas offer guests a new frontier for magical vacations where the comforts of home and the wonders of the wilderness are deeply rooted in the magic of Disney. It's inspired by the legendary mining and railroad history of the Pacific Northwest, which I really don't know anything about, but I love that phrase. I love the phrase Pacific Northwest. It just, I don't know, makes me think of really big things. Guests will come home to rustic elegance where cozy touches mix with modern design to create a tranquil retreat. I don't know if you've ever heard the term glamping.
Yes.
But that's what this makes me think of.
Totally.
Right? Doesn't it? I'm like, I'm totally going to glamp here.
Yeah, if you look at the inside of those cabins, you're not roughing it.
No, you're not. It is the way my mother would have camped, actually. And my mother was famous when we would go out to eat for saying, I do not unwrap my food. So you fit right in here. So this resort will feature 26 all-new luxurious waterfront cabins. So you're going to think sort of along the same lines as the Poly cabins. They sleep up to 8 and feature 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a large dining and living room space. The cabin's floor-to-ceiling windows expose wooden beams and interior-exterior stone hearth fireplace, bringing the beauty of the outdoors inside and offering plenty of room for families to stretch out. Other features of the waterfront cabins also include a built-in hot tub, which it says you'll be able to enjoy. So I don't know how they determine who's going to be able to enjoy this, but some will be able to enjoy the electrical water pageant and the firework views from the Magic Kingdom. I guess if you're really short, maybe you won't be able to see out of the windows. I don't really know how they're determining who that is.
There may be like a couple cabins that have a view and some that don't. Right?
Yeah, maybe. But I think that would be great to be able to sit in the hot tub and watch the fireworks. That's pretty awesome.
Agreed.
Right? As with the previous 3 DVC resorts, buyers at Copper Creek will have the option of purchasing a fixed ownership interest, which is a very interesting concept, but it's not new. So the fixed ownership interest, or a fixed week option, which many more people will recognize, allows buyers to vacation during a specific week of the year without need for reservations. Fixed ownerships are confirmed automatically on a priority basis and preempt any other club members from reserving certain villas on a first-come, first-served basis. So what you're looking at is a throwback to those traditional timeshare models back in the 1980s where you bought a week instead of points. So DVC will ensure that a villa is pre-booked for that prescribed week with no risk of the owner being shut out. Additionally, DVC guarantees that the points purchased will always be sufficient to book that week, regardless of any future changes to the resort's points chart. Fixed ownership interest will be capped at 35% of any specific use day for any specific vacation home type at Copper Creek, and at least 65% of all dates and villa sizes will remain available to booking on points versus on weeks at the resort. The fixed option is also offered at places like Alani, Grand Floridian, the Polynesian, and it's proven to be popular during high demand times of the year, like early December, and then more sought after villas like the cheaper standard view deluxe studios. So this would be a great option. We were discussing this earlier about Copper Creek. Copper Creek tends to have fewer studios than 1 and 2 bedroom villas. So if you knew that you were always going to want a studio at Copper Creek, and you knew that you were always going to want a studio at Copper Creek during, say, Wine and Dine weekend, which is early November, then you could actually book that specific week every year. So instead of buying points, you're actually purchasing a week. It's going to be more expensive, but a lot of the buzz around the DVC community lately has been frustration in that if you don't book at exactly 11 months out in the more popular resorts, you oftentimes get shut out during those popular times. So, for instance, if you knew you wanted to run the Wine and Dine race, or if you knew you wanted to go the week after Thanksgiving every year and you weren't flexible, this would be a really great option for you if you didn't mind spending the extra money. So this will be offered alongside the point rentals at Copper Creek. And again, there's some caveats to it as far as fees and things like that. And you will pay a premium for it because it is a fixed week versus points. But it's an interesting option for those who are very set and really don't have a lot of flexibility in the time that they can go.
Hey, Rebecca, do you think this is like the future of DVC? Like where they're going to start pushing the traditional week sale of points over buying just like points and using them? Like, do you think they want to force people to stay at their home resorts now instead of like, or could this be to stop people renting out their points? Because I gotta tell
you, from a renting point of view, we, as a renter, I occasionally hear some disgruntled owners because they believe that people renting points has made it harder for them to book the points that they own. And I think that as long as Disney does not intervene in that situation, as long as they continue to sort of turn a blind eye to point renters, I think that, again, like I'm no stranger to hearing people who at the 7-month window want to book at their not home resort and find that they're shut out because it's full. And I think we're outpacing the demand right now. And as many DVC properties as we have, there's still a huge demand for them. I think this is another way for them to sort of squash that a little bit. It's kind of like raising prices on tickets to sort of outprice certain people. I think it's just a way for them to deal with supply and demand. They say nothing new, nothing old is, everything old is new again occasionally. And I think that we are seeing a resurgence of those weeks, especially now because, typically, especially with Run Disney, you're seeing such a huge demand for Run Disney events in the last, say, 8 to 10 years. And Wine and Dine has become a huge event. Princess, in February has become a huge event. Marathon Weekend in January. There are, people will tell you all the time, there are no slow times in Disney anymore. And those events were sort of originally encouraged and put in place because those were slow times. And you're just not seeing slow times at Disney anymore. And I think the more and more events like, the Flower and Garden and, Wine and Dine has been extended another couple of weeks for next year. I think the more that you see that, the more demand you're going to see. And if people are inflexible in their dates, you're going to start seeing these weeks become much more popular. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I guess time will show it out to us, but like the point that was made concerning, the fact that renting out of points makes it harder for them to get their room. Just sheer mathematics, the reality is renting out the points doesn't change the number of points that are out there to be used. They're still going to be used or they're going to be lost. So there'd have to be a huge percentage of points that were never being used that were just being lost that are now being recouped. And I don't think there's ever been any tangible evidence that was the case. So I don't think that's the real issue. But with this thing, to me, it feels more like it's just a niche market. I don't think, Joe, we're going to go back to that model. If you've ever owned a timeshare under that model, it was a pain in the neck. It really was, when you only owned 1 week and you were kind of stuck. The other thing about this particular thing, though, if I remember correctly, is that even though you pay more money to get the locked week, but you do have the flexibility to release that week and then use your points somewhere else.
So it's almost like you're paying for like a guaranteed reservation.
Exactly.
If you want it or not.
And then if you decided not to, well, then now you have the flexibility to let the week go and then use your points. But you paid more money than the other people who had that system. So I think this market, it'll definitely meet a niche market, because what you said was accurate. There's lots of fixed times, the different races and stuff. They're different days, but they're all set on the third weekend or the second weekend. So as long as you lock into that weekend, you're gonna as you're locked in week, you're pretty much guaranteed you're always gonna have that week. So I think it's here to stay. I don't think we're going to be moving that direction away from the model that everybody kind of followed Disney and go into this point system.
Let me ask you guys this, because I'm a big I don't mind any of the extras that Disney decides to do. The bungalows, I wouldn't do them. The different tours, maybe the dessert parties, the different things that is an add-on to your trip. This almost seems like, though, it is definitely a case of the have and have-nots. If you have more money, you can block people and get more premium spots.
Yeah, sure.
Which is not typically what Disney does. So
I think it's not typically what Disney did in the past. I don't know if it's not.
Doing it now.
Well, the last three.
I don't know if you didn't get the memo.
They did it with the Grand.
I was going to say, I don't know if you didn't get the memo, but it just came out recently that Disney is into making money.
What?
I don't know if you heard about the bananas.
There's a memo. Right. Oh my gosh. So
I think you're right. That's more of a money grab. Sure it is.
They did it for the last three resorts, right? They've done it for the Poly and the Grand. So it's clearly working for them.
Alani also has certain weeks.
Yeah.
But the one thing we don't know is how much of their inventory have they allowed to be moved into that? That's the real deciding factor. And I don't think there's been a lot of inventory released into that, but clearly there's a niche there because they keep doing it.
Right. Well,
right. So
35% is a lot.
And I do think there's the part of the motivation is to get people to make the big purchase versus buying in at a smaller amount. Because if you look at the point if you look at a studio for a week or two bedroom for a week, and you're like, hey, listen, we could bank for every year we could do Christmas week in the cabin. It would be amazing. And then you calculate out the points and you're like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. We can go every other year instead. Well, if you really want that week, you're going to have to buy the full fixed week value of those points because we looked at that with Grand Floridian and we were like, oh, well, but we were purchasing points so that we could go every third year or something like that. So it would have, if we decided we wanted a fixed week, we would have been forced to pay for a lot more points than we anticipated purchasing.
And
so
like when we bought, that was exactly right. When we bought, we went, okay, now let's look and see when the cheapest amount of points are. That's when we'll go. Right. We wanted, we were the Walmart shopper. We were stretching those points. These people that are going at the prime times, they're paying the premium amount of points. So yeah, that's true. They're going to have to buy more points.
But it did worry us because we essentially said, okay, well, we have to assume 35% at our booking window at the 11-month mark. 35% of the rooms could be already blocked off at the second we can book. They're already gone. So now we haven't had a problem. We honestly, and I think it's because the points are more expensive at Grand. We've actually been able to get bookings there pretty much anytime we'd want to. But we can't always afford to stay there. So
that assumes, again, what I mentioned before, how many points are allowed to be. And I don't think Disney would they want to make a profit, but they also don't want to shoot their golden cow either. So if they sold so many of those that now it made it bad for everybody else, they would be shooting themselves in the foot. So I think they're limiting the number of weeks that they're selling. And so there's still availability.
What do you typically book, Emily? I'm just curious.
So we tend to book a one bedroom.
Okay.
And we tend to book. So I actually just did a little run to see what it would cost to get a fixed week at Copper Creek because my husband would really like that. Mm-hmm. And it looks like the week we typically go is the week including and after Labor Day. So Labor Day weekend is in that week, and we tend to go because we have one built-in day off there. So, and it coincides with family birthdays. So that week in a deluxe studio, it's saying rooms from 107 points for that week. A one bedroom is 204. and 2-bedroom villa is $269. 3-bedroom grand is $688, and then the cabin is $639. So you literally have to buy 639 points. I mean, now the 1-bedroom is reasonable, but I'm telling you, I went through it with my husband. We went through all these price estimations, and I was like, well, we'd have to sell this and this, and if we sold our Grand Floridian points, then we'd probably be able to make most of the money we spent on them, so we could get the the Cascade cabin point. But there's no way we could reasonably absorb. I mean, different people have different financial scenarios, but we're trying to pay for college in advance for 3 kids, so we have some priorities that are higher than Disney. They're very few, but so we're not. Like, I just don't think that we're going to be able to do a fixed week at the cabin.
See, I love it when you put whole numbers with things like that. I think it's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Yeah.
And by the way, Emily, I just ran some quick numbers, and I'm just going to say it's a 6-figure purchase for the last amount of points. You said it was like 630 something. It's a 6-figure purchase.
Is it not true that at that point it might just be easier to pay rack rate through Disney?
Right, pay cash.
Buy a house in Florida.
Exactly. Or Golden Oak.
Celebration. Start looking at Celebration real estate.
I mean, again, we say this and we say it jokingly, but there's clearly a market for it, or Disney wouldn't be doing it.
Right, exactly. And I can imagine, there are professional athletes, there are all kinds of celebrities that own DVC that I've heard rumors of. And you could imagine people without like a real budget in their world would be able to say, hey, you know what? There's a cool new cabin. Yeah, I want that for Christmas week every year for my family.
There we go.
If we don't use it, somebody will. So why not?
Yeah, have the account write the check.
That week, yeah, absolutely. New Year's Eve. Oh my goodness. Come on.
Right. Oh my gosh. But I mean, looking at a studio is $107. So if you were going to buy into DVC anyway, and for this particular week, I should say, that's not totally unreasonable. I mean, it's more than we paid for any of our points. But if you could, getting a fixed week in a studio for your ideal week, you always have, say a Run Disney week, you have for not a terribly large amount more than you would spend on a regular DVC contract, you could have your days banked and you would never have to worry about reservations again.
And
I think I would have a hard time doing that at Wilderness Lodge, though. Just generally speaking, given its location, if I was going to purchase a week, I think it would not be at Wilderness Lodge.
I just want to say this too. This is why Loopers. This is very important. We've said this many times. This is why the old adage is you need to be comfortable of where your home resort is.
Yep.
Right.
Because you're not always going to be, because even like Emily said, even if they're going to be going to this model now for a little bit, if 35% is that number or whatever, you could be fighting for the other 65%, so you need to be at your home resort at your 11-month window. So you really need to be comfortable with where your home resort is. If you're a beach club person and you own at Bay Lake Tower, you probably should be owning a beach club because
absolutely.
I'm saying it's going to be harder to get, or vice versa. So that's why we've always stressed that in the past. It's important to be comfortable with your home resort.
And to all of you listeners, if you find your vacation habits may change after you join, and if you find that you do like the resort better than your home resort, a lot of people, now I'm not recommending this because it seems like a pain in the butt, and I'm personally not going to do it anytime soon, but a lot of people will resell one of their contracts and buy at the resort they tend to prefer after they've sort of gotten used to the DVC system. And it's a little bit of paperwork, but it pays off long term for their peace of mind.
That's what we did. We bought our second contract to the resort that we like to go to the most. So.
Yep.
Okay. Brad, what's your story?
All right. Well, my story is about Disney Vacation Development on the Disney Polynesian. Okay, very good. I got the same disease as somebody else. Disney Polynesian Villas and Bungalows. By the way, side note. Hey, Tim.
Yo.
When you opened up the show,
yes,
did you have your voice on like 2x speed? Was it just me? Because it just sounded like how you were talking about saying, sold to the man in the back.
I was just drinking some Joffrey's coffee. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Brad.
Back to my story. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Disney vacation inventory at the Disney Polynesian Villas and Bungalows is being increased. They've declared 10 more residential units that contains a total of 48 studios. This is a normal process whenever they open up a new resort, is they only open them up in phases. And as the points begin to sell out and as the other facilities get fully prepared, then they'll open up more inventory. With these new 48 studios, it now represents a total of 473,376 points. That's a lot of points. Anybody going to buy half of those, maybe? And then you get at least 2 use year special exclusive deals. But anyway, that makes now this latest declaration, they've got 16 bungalows and 312 studios available at the Polynesian, the Polynesian villas and bungalows. Total points now 3,460,000 points plus and some change. They're at about now with this last declaration, they're at about just under 86% of the Polynesians' total points having been declared. So there are 4 bungalows and 48 studios that have not yet been declared for DVC inventory. So for those of you that were worried that maybe you didn't get in on time to get Polynesian, guess what? There's a few. Never too late. Always. And that's one thing with all these resorts. Just keep it in mind. A resort will open up, it'll sell, it'll sound like the points are running low, and they'll just re-energize that thing and add some more units into the inventory. And by doing that, they keep the sales brisk for that resort for several years, usually. So,
I was shocked there was 312 studios. I had no idea there were that many. That seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, that is. I mean,
wow.
When you think in terms of Disney Grand California and having like 40, wow. It's like, wow, 41 bedrooms and 41 bedrooms, 40 2-bedroom, 40 studios, I think is what they have at Grand California. So,
wow,
yeah, 312 is a lot. That's like a whole resort, one of the smaller resorts.
Right, because you can see the bungalows just sitting there. They're right in Bob's way of the fireworks, but I mean the studios, you had no idea there were that many.
Hello.
Hey, but at least there's no heads blocking your view because nobody's renting them. So
Oh wow!
Nice.
Speaking of only a few people getting to see the water pageant, those are the only folks that get to see it now. Thank you very much.
It's now an exclusive show.
Down Cujo.
Yeah.
No Cujo.
Yeah.
Easy, Queenie.
You mentioned that, Tim, about the number of studios. When it all gets done, they'll end up with 20 bungalows and 360 studios at Polynesian. So that's pretty impressive for an add-on to an existing hotel.
That is. Man.
Wow.
And I only need one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty small
how many
percentage.
you're going to get, Tim? None.
Even less than that, yes.
The same number as the number of reservations Bob's going to get at Ohana.
Exactly.
The same. Oh, see? Wow.
You know what? You guys need to get a Resort Loop bungalow and find a way to make this a business expense.
You know what? That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
It's for research.
Can we? Will you guys rent it out if we purchase one of those?
Combine our points.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Is there enough? Is there enough on the Resort Loop credit card, Tim?
Not right now. There's not.
No.
No.
Not even by the hour.
No.
Seems like, let me look. No.
I'd be happy if we could get a Dole Whip right now.
Right. Hello. Yeah. Exactly. Oh my goodness.
Hey Joe, do you have something for us?
Sure. We're going to head over back to the most popular part of Walt Disney World, it seems, lately, over at Copper Creek again. And as Rebecca stated earlier in the show, if you're a DVC member who bought points at Copper Creek already, the 11th month window is finally open. It opened on March 21st, so you can begin making reservations for dates through February 21st of 2018. So you have to call up DVC Member Services to make these reservations. It's not available through the member tool on the DVC member website. So if you go there and trying to book it online, it's not going to show up. Just a couple other tips. Cash bookings are also available for Copper Creek. You can call up regular Disney reservations or your preferred Disney travel agent. Right now, Disney Vacation Development has only included 48 of the 184 rooms at Copper Creek for their timeshare program. So there's still 136 that are owned by Disney and not bookable for DVC members right now using points. We just kind of talked about that. They're kind of releasing it in slow phases. So it's going to be extremely difficult probably to get a room right off the bat. So if you're fortunate enough to get in at Copper Creek, right into Tim and Bob, let us know how it goes. That'd be pretty cool to see how your stay was. Sales of Copper Creek points to new buyers launched on are expected to launch on April 5th for everybody else. Those new owners can then start making reservations effective April 19th for all check-in dates within 11 months of that booking window. Finally, at April 26th, the Copper Creek reservations will be open to all members subject to the 7-month window. So if you own at another resort on April 26th, you could have at it and try to get in there as well. So it's exciting to see how this is going to turn out and what the reviews of Copper Creek will be like for the few that can get in there in the initial point. But it looks like it's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. And if you are staying at Copper Creek, send us a show open.
Please.
Yes,
please.
From the lounge, the new lounge.
That would be awesome. Absolutely.
Or from the new hair salon that'll be out there.
Oh my goodness! Are you kidding me? With
really going to be a hair salon?
Yep. According to WDW News today, I will give them credit for breaking the story. It's going to possibly be a hair salon out by the pool. So.
Oh well.
Yeah, really?
You never know.
Unless they're serving drinks while they're doing my hair, I don't care.
It seems more of like a Polynesian kind of thing, like maybe an Old Key West kind of thing. But I don't know. We could
Grand Floridian has the ivy trellis, and that's pretty exciting, but it's not by the pool.
That must be a big thing in the Pacific Northwest.
Salon
done by a pool. I don't know.
Clip your beard.
Yeah, they do a hairstyle, and it's kind of like a squirrel's nest.
Oh, I like
trees, and they nest. It's pretty
We
cool.
call this the bison.
Back to nature.
You walking out like the lumberjack look, please.
Yes, very nice.
You get your own
comes with a free flannel shirt.
There you go. Do you have to wear the flannel when you're staying there? I just wonder.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be great?
Bob, not only do you have to wear the flannel, you can only wear the flannel.
And you're required to end your sentences with a.
Right.
And you have to use the word crick.
Yeah.
Right.
Where's the crick?
The crick.
Get me down there.
Taking a picture of the brawny guy, I said, I want this look.
We're making fun of them, but darn, do I really want a cabin?
Exactly.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. I would. Can you imagine hot tub fireworks? What?
I know.
I think there's almost more
I will
of a.
Say, this is, these properties are all like we joke about them and everything, but it is really cool to know that you have these options. Should you hit the lottery?
Absolutely. Yeah. Leave it to Disney to give you so many incredible places to stay. So
it seems like people are more excited about Copper Creek than they were about the Polynesian when that whole thing started.
I definitely am.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I love the Polynesian, but there is something just thematically really cool about.
Yes.
I think people didn't want the Polynesian touched, and that was the thing. And it was that's the thing. They didn't want the views taken away. They didn't want the lobby redone. It was like that people just didn't want it touched.
Plus, it was the shock value too. When they heard about how much those bungalows were, it was like we all had cardiacs. This time around, we were expecting it, so it wasn't quite so bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was thinking that I am having we had the sticker shock, and now I'm having sort of like this erosion effect, like where I was looking at the prices of this Copper Creek, and I was like, 117 point, I could swing. Yeah. And then I'm like, no, I can't.
Nice. Let's see here. Emily, do you have another story for us?
Well, sure. And since we're being fancy, let's talk about.
Only Emily could be fancy.
That's right.
Hey, when we're talking about Copper Creek, I think we're all getting a little fancy in our flannel.
Fancy in our flannel.
That's right. Fancy flannel. Yep.
Your Sunday go to meeting flannel.
Right, exactly. But I'm going to take you across the country and across the world to the Danube and the Rhine River. As we know, river cruising is getting big, and in 2018, they have Adventure by Disney has some Danube and Rhine River cruises that, for DVC members, are suddenly subject to a $500 discount, and you get an extra month as DVC members to take advantage of the discount. So, that's enough for a couple of points at Copper Creek to save. So there are some exceptions. You can't take the Holiday Danube cruise and have the discount. The discounted space is limited on each sailing, but it is uniquely limited. The discount is not like a they say that they have limited space on each sailing, but it doesn't sound like it's running like their food or their food discounts, or what is that free food package that the people that go and pay cash for Disney pay
free
for?
dining?
Yeah, free dining.
Oh my God, you elitist! Crazy person.
Right. So anyway,
spoken only as a true DVC member would do.
Right. What is that thing that people do when they don't have a kitchen? I don't understand. When you're not at Victoria and Albert's.
When you don't have a sommelier right next door.
Expressed by Emily may not necessarily.
Did somebody just mute me? Did somebody mute me? But yeah, no. So I think what Rebecca said, the free dining packages, they typically fill up very quickly, and it sounds like they have very limited availability. And this one actually includes most stateroom categories for the offer. The only ones that are excluded are suites and Category E. I don't know what those are. I've never been on a cruise. But then I mentioned, the Holiday Danube cruise is not included. But it is a pretty broad and generous kind of discount, and $500 is not nothing. So if you're thinking about it, maybe this will push you over the edge on booking a cruise. You have till May 31st, and they're putting it in terms of point savings, so 70 vacation points, but typically they allow DVC members to use the same discounts with cash. So I would say if you are interested, you should call ABD and figure out, or call member services actually, to figure out what that means for you. If it means that you could book with cash, because as we've mentioned before, it's usually cheaper to book these things with cash and then rent out your points. So I would call member services, get your prices, figure out how much the discount's going to be for you for your particular sailing, and it'll be a little bit of math, but it sounds like it's a big chunk of discount.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Emily, because we have a question this week that comes from Nick Salcido from off of our website. It says, "Greetings, Loopers, Bob and Tim, or Tim and Bob. I had a question for you guys, or more so, your brain trust you guys have at the DVC Roundtable." That'd be you.
Okay,
guys.
well, I guess I'll check off now. You need somebody to brain.
Oh wow.
My wife and I are considering DVC, and on one of your roundtables, you guys mentioned that Disney cruises were not worth the points, and gave options on what to do with the points instead of using them for the cruises. I was wondering, do any of you guys have any experience with Adventures by Disney trips? I saw the other resorts, such as Hilton Head or Vero Beach, could be booked, and obviously not as many points as Walt Disney World. But what about Adventures by Disney trips? Is that worth spending the points on, or would that be similar situation to the cruises? If any of you did go on the Adventures by Disney trips, or what did you think of them? And then he says, love the show, guys, and really enjoy the DVC Roundtable. I hope Bob can keep things together with all the changes coming to Walt Disney World. I know personally, I am looking forward to
a gondola ride in the future.
Read it. No, that's not what he said.
Forward to a beep ride in the future.
Nick actually said that he knows he's personally looking forward to the gondola ride in the future.
Wants to ride with Bob in the gondola.
Nick, the check is in the mail.
All right, Nick. Hey, Tim, put Nick on the list, will you?
All right, hang on. All right. Sorry, Nick. He made me do it.
You know what list that is?
It's similar to a do not fly list. It has to do with the resort loop. So. All right. So, have you guys, anybody
So I'll
done
start.
By Disney?
I'll throw in my 2 cents. And that's that I think that the same rule of thumb goes for ABD trips. Because from what I can tell, the adult point values for a lot of these trips are like 341 points to 421. I'm looking at a China one that's 756 to 820. And I'm just sort of like surfing through a couple forms, and it looks like you end up paying, depending on how many points you have. I mean, again, not having to pay cash for something in a year you don't feel cash rich has its own benefits. But 341 points, you could probably get a lot more from renting those points and then paying the cash towards the trip than you would by using those points. And keep in mind, my family, I don't even think we have 340 points total. No, we don't. We have 270. So if we had, we don't even have enough points to put one person on an Adventures by Disney cruise or Adventures by Disney thing. So that's, if we banked and borrowed, we could put two people through.
Yeah, most people only have a couple hundred points. Very few probably have like over 300 points. So that it's got to be tough.
I think it's used as a selling point when they're trying to sell, like, oh, you could use it for cruises and ABD trips, but it's just not practical. I mean, I've never been on an ABD trip. I've heard immensely incredible things about them, that they're like unbelievable, that like the guides are amazing. You get that Disney service that, you would get in Orlando or in Anaheim or on a Disney cruise line. I heard that they're amazing, but I have no experience with them. But I agree with Emily wholeheartedly. Like, you can only bank like a year prior to current. It's like 3 years worth. I just don't see it being worth it. That's a lot of hotel nights. I mean, you're better off just renting them out and taking the cash for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I actually did a quick number just to give a comparison. So, and I was trying to figure I kind of hesitated there because when you mentioned the amount of points, I'm like, wow, that's lower than one of the ones that we hear most about Adventures by Disney is the Southern California one, right? The backstage magic
right.
at Disneyland. All right, that's one of the least expensive ones. It's not a weekend one. That's a full weekend. It's the cheapest full week one, 6 days and 5 nights. All right, so that one, the pricing starts per adult at $3,289. All right. The amount of points, if you were to use your points for adults, starts at 456 points per adult.
Oh,
wow.
So when you figure that out, basically they're giving you $7.12 per point. Now, your dues and your maintenance, if you have that many points, could you use them? Could it be a good use of your points? Well, you wouldn't go out and kill yourself because you did it. You wouldn't go out and abuse yourself. Technically, you would barely cover the amount that you paid for your maintenance fees. So yeah, you could do it if it was only for ease of use or whatever. But it makes no sense. And we've said this before. You guys can keep coming up with all kinds of what about this and what about that. Just take this as the rule of thumb. Anything that isn't used specifically for staying at a Disney DVC resort is going to end up not being pretty much across the board not a good use of your points. If you rented those points for $11 a point, which you could do at several locations that'll just do it for you, all right? You would gain a profit per adult of $1,727.
Wow.
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 It makes no sense. Why would you use your points when you could make $1,700? I think I could pay for my airfare. Just rent the points. Right. Rent your points, get the money, and I had just a total side note. I shared before. I rent my points a lot for some key reasons, which we won't get into at this point. But at this point in our lives, we don't tend to use our points each year. We go each year, but we don't use the points to go. But anyway, so I rent with this one company a lot. Well, for the first time, I had rented points out, had a contract in place. They had paid me my 60 or 70% up front. And then we're waiting for the people to travel. Well, they got word from the family they had a medical emergency and had to cancel.
Oh no!
Yeah. Wow. So now I've locked up my points, and I'm sitting at risk. What's going to happen now? What this company did was not only did they tell me, hey, even if the points didn't rent, we would still send you the other 30%, pay you 100% of your contract.
Oh, nice.
Or number two, if you would be willing to try to put somebody else's name on that same exact rental, those same dates and everything, if we can get somebody to match and you're willing to just call up Disney for a 5-minute phone call and add the new names, we'll pay you $1 a point more.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And within 3 days, they had found somebody to fill that particular reservation.
I
Paid me $103.
Pretty sure it was me.
Yeah. Well, if you're staying at the Polynesian in the deluxe studio. So,
Brad, yeah, that's so true. And the one caveat I would say is that I have found that there are some RCI bookings where you could get sort of an equivalent.
Yes.
That's the only caveat to the rule of always just use them at a
And
Disney
honestly, that's why
DVC
I stopped
resort.
myself, because that's exactly it. The RCI one can be it's because there's such a wide variety of things you can get with those points. But there are some situations where you will make out. Now you won't make out like a bandit, but you'll get it's worth your points. But outside of that, I don't know if you guys have seen anything, but I haven't seen anything. It's worth it. So anyway, that gives you an idea on this particular question for Nick out there, buddy. Definitely, if you got your points, if you have that many points, call us up. Let Tim and Bob know.
Let's
get
be
them into a
friends.
bungalow.
There you go.
They deserve it. But otherwise, rate your points.
Well, we would
if
do
you
that.
if you go on an ABD trip, let us know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
We'd love to hear a trip report on that.
Even though Bob had me put your name on the list, Nick. Sorry about that.
Well, if listen, here's the deal. If Nick phones in a show open, we'll take his name off the list. How about that?
There you go, Nick.
There you go.
Fair.
Love it.
Now, Tim, how would he go about calling in a show open?
All you have to do is pick up that phone and dial area code 414
WDW.
loop. That's all you got to do.
Simple as that.
Sounds so good.
I think Joe and Justin Leeser did that.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. What's
we should do one
Justin's
on
last
Saturday.
name?
It's
What's
Leister.
Justin's last name, Tim?
Leister? Looster?
I just talked to him before we recorded. He says hi, by the way.
It's not like we're known for mispronouncing people's names. Come on.
We had a good time doing it. It was a good day at the Wild World of Sports.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, before we get to your Spotlight Resort, let's go around the horn for the DVC Roundtable recommendations. We want to know, this is from Rebecca. Her idea was, what DVC resort pool do you recommend? Rebecca, it was your idea. Let's start with you.
Oh, good, because I can wipe out everybody's.
Come on.
Yeah.
One that like...
We're all going to say ditto.
It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like the hashtag one tip. Just one.
All right. Actually, I'm not going to, because right now, my favorite DVC pool is at the boardwalk.
Ooh.
The scary clown. The scary clown.
The scary clown is a highly polarizing. I
know.
understand. I don't like clowns. But here's the interesting thing about the clown. Have a couple of drinks. And when you're in the stairwell, you have no idea it's a clown.
There's a great
you're
water
talking
slide
to him
there,
like
too.
you're old friends.
It really
how
is.
you doing?
It is a great water slide.
It is.
The carousel pool bar there is fantastic. You will not meet nicer bartenders anywhere. The location is great. It is a great pool for small children. They have the great little like carnival elephants with the trunks that squirt the water, and it's really relaxing. If you position yourself just right at night, you can see some of the fireworks. It's very relaxing. It's very calming. It's I know I have an idea what some of our other roundtable members are going to say, and I agree with them. But this one is a little bit understated. For such a big resort, the pool is rarely crowded, and I love to go and sit and read and have a drink. And the pool itself is a lot. It's just really relaxing. But again, especially around dusk when the pool lights up, the clown scares everybody, and it is some of the best people watching you will do the entire trip. So I'm going off the grid a little bit. I'm going to say the boardwalk pool. Try not to be afraid of it. It really is great. It's a throwback to the old Atlantic City, old school, times and eras past and eras that never were. But it's a lot of fun. So give it a try.
Nice. How about you, Emily?
Okay, I think you should pass and come back to me because I am still thinking.
Oh,
okay.
All right.
Go to Joe. I want to know what Joe.
All right, Joe, bring it.
Well, mine is posted, so everybody should know. But I'm a huge fan. I was trying to be proactive. I'm a huge fan of the High Rock Springs pool at Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa for a few reasons. Number one is it's one of the first DVC pools my wife and I went to. One of our first trips when we were DVC members, we got a massage over at Senses over at Saratoga, and it's right next to the spa and to the carriage house in the main building, the artist palette and all that stuff. And just the location is great. If you go for a massage, you can head out to the pool right there. You go inside to Artist Palette, grab something to eat. There's a great bar out there, the Win Place and Show Arcade, which everybody knows how much I love old 80s arcade games. There's an arcade right there. It's got a great water slide. It's got a small kids water slide. It's got a nice little splash pad for the little ones with Donald Duck and some other characters. It's just a nice pool. It's zero entry, and there's plenty of seating. Like, I never have a problem there finding a lounge chair. I mean, Saratoga has a bunch of pools, but this is like the main feature pool with the water slides and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's just a nice pool all around. We always enjoy ourselves. It's never super crowded. Great water slides. We can always run inside, grab a quick bite at Artist Palette, something to bring back out. And the times that we go to the spa for special occasions, stuff like that, we like to relax out by the pool afterwards, so it's convenient as well. So I'm going to go with High Rock Springs Pool at Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa.
Oh, nice.
And why do you sound like a radio person?
I was just about to say, he sounds like he's on a game show.
And now they're throwing back to
ready to go.
Back to the golden oldies.
I was inspired by previous episodes of Resort Loop, the way that Bob sound on the radio episode.
Now coming in at number 2, we're going to join Brad Coates.
Hey,
Brad, what do you have to
Dan Dashing here with the 4-wheel drive plan of salvation for you. Listen.
Wait,
imitation is the best form of flattery.
Drive plan of salvation.
That's right. Okay, I'm not gonna get into it. I'll get into it.
Guys can from the creek.
Yeah, no. $75. I'll send you a genuine vial of water from the Jerusalem River. $75. I'll send you a genuine piece of wood from the cross. I think if you took a poll and you asked people out there listening in Looper Nation that it would take 3 of us before we got to Beach Club, they would probably be shocked. So I'll just go ahead and break the ice and say Beach Club.
Right? It is true, but nobody really wants to be that predictable.
But technically, Stormalong Bay is not a DVC pool. The DVC pool is in the back.
Did you see what we did to the lounge?
I think we can call it.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. In the DVC pool in the Beach Club, which is Beach Club, which is a DVC resort, which pool do the DVC people use?
You can use both, technically. But I'm just saying technically.
Stormalong Bay.
It absolutely is part of the DVC. So
right.
Sorry, nice try. But it's not strictly DVC, and that's a good point. But as far as it is a DVC pool, it is used by the resort there, and it's not. It's the only one that has a lazy river built into it. Yeah. It's a zero entry. It's sand based, sand bottom, which was really nice. A lot of great activities that go on during the day for families and for kids, and so it's one of the only pools where they have they have a lockdown protocol where people can be tased.
That's right. And that's why we carry tasers.
While they're in the water, by the way, which would not be a good mix, just saying. So
it's very Pavlovian. Yeah. When they say get out of the water, people get out of the water.
They mean it.
They're hardcore.
But anyway, so of course, then you've got Beaches and Cream right there that you can go to. If you want a sit-down meal, you can go inside the Beach Club and eat at Cafe May. No, that's
Kate May.
Kate May, thank you.
Beaches and Cream.
But do not try to go to Beaches and Cream without a reservation these days.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Lynn Testa noted the other day in a podcast that Beaches and Cream is now top list one of the hardest places to get into.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's so small. It's so
small, and they just started taking reservations, and a lot of people don't realize they're doing it, so they think they can just show up still.
Right.
Yep.
So if you're out there and Beaches and Cream is at the top of your list, make those ADR friends.
Yeah, people travel from clear across the resort to go have ice cream at beaches and cream.
Right.
So,
And Brad, don't forget about our Hurricane Hannah's too. It's a great little,
that place is
great little bar outside. Got great drinks.
It really is good. Maybe the best poolside.
Agreed.
Best quick service and everything.
Have you been, Joe? Have you been to Hurricane Hannah's lately? I'm just curious about
something. I was there last weekend.
Okay, so here's my question. We were curious about this. Since they installed all the new fences and things like that, can you get to Hurricane Hannah's without being inside the pool?
I think we just walked up. Yeah, we just walked up the sidewalk.
Okay.
Yeah, we were there real quick before they were closing just to grab a couple beers. But you could just still walk right up. For some reason, I've said this before. It just seems like the most expensive bar on Disney property. Every time I just buy 2 beers there, it's like $16 or $18. I'm like, I just don't understand why that bar is so expensive. But it's
interesting. I've never thought about that.
They had to import it across the water.
I don't know what it is. I mean, that is like the most expensive beach pool bar in Disney World. I don't know why, but it's a good spot. I mean, if you're definitely staying there and you are definitely at the pool all day or at a Stormalong Bay, it's a good spot.
There's a great slide there too.
Yeah. Nice and long. Although I'll tell you what, the slide we talked about the clown, Rebecca. That's a good point because the clown doesn't bug me. I just always buy into that because everybody else talks about it. But that's one of the funner slides on property.
Absolutely.
For sure.
At Old Key West, the pool at Old Key West, also the slide there, also fantastic.
Yeah, the sandcastle slide.
Yes, it's fast.
All right, Emily, it's your turn.
All right, I'm finally ready, and I'm glad that I waited because I was debating about Stormalong Bay, and I'm glad Brad did it. So I'm going to go with Kidani Village.
Ooh.
And
yay!
I heard that's a nice pool, yeah.
That was my
pretty fun. Yeah, so Brad, you know what I'm talking about. They have a great sort of wet splash zone for the kids. It's huge. They've got those water cannons that they can squirt. They have elevated water cannons. They have a little sort of little kid area. They have just a huge area, and it's very well. There's only one entrance and exit, so it's very easy for parents to sort of let the kids run. And we had a lot of fun there last time.
Trap them in.
Yeah, exactly. There, you go get your drink at the bar, you bring it over, you let the kids go crazy, and then there are some great hot tubs in the area. They're also at Jumbo, but they have these beautiful sort of hidden hot tubs. There are animals around, so while you're walking down to the pools, you can go see some of the hoof stock. They have great slides, although I do agree that the boardwalk has probably the best slide. But we could just spend probably the whole day at that pool complex, and it's just really big and it's great for all ages. So there's a little slide.
Yeah, when they first opened up that bucket that it has, the bucket that's there, it used to tilt.
Uh-huh.
I'm almost sure, but I think they blocked that off.
Like when it filled up?
Yeah, like those, yeah.
Oh, like the Grand Floridians, yeah.
Yeah,
like the Mad
it used to be
Hatters.
like that, but then they blocked it, and I don't think it's ever worked since. But
So, I will say that those seem to be terrifying for the kids. So some kids seem to like them, but honestly, my kids were all like, "Oh my God, do you remember that thing?"
I almost died.
Right, Mom just let it dump gallons. I don't know. I didn't personally stand under it, but it could be that it's just a little too much water to be fun.
Right, water's
a little
heavy.
too fast, a little too much.
Exactly.
But yeah, that water zone is really cool there, isn't it? It's really nice. Outside of the Caribbean Beach Resort, which is not DVC yet, that's the best water splash area, I think.
Mm-hmm.
DVC.
Nice. Well, before we wrap it up, Joe, do you want to give us a little background on the Spotlight Resort today? What are you going to do?
Sure. This is mine. I think, Brad, this is your home resort, but we're going to talk a little bit about Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa.
Yes,
it's my home resort. I've talked about it a lot. I finally got to stay there over Marathon weekend. My wife and I made it a point to actually stay in our home resort, and we really enjoyed it. But just to give you guys a little bit of a background on it, Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa, it's themed after the 1880s Victorian style up in New York State. which is the Saratoga Springs area, and based off of the Saratoga race course. So anybody who's from the northeast part of the United States, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, New England, Saratoga is very popular in the summertime, the Saratoga race course. It's very beautiful. The town is awesome. It's a great time. So this is kind of themed after that a little bit, but back in the 1800s. Their resort motto is health, history, and horses. So if you've stayed there, there's horses everywhere. And it's themed after horses. And it's kind of cool. It's different. A lot of people complain about the theming. They say, oh, it's not fun. But, you know, it's different. You know what I'm saying? Like you pull in and to the carriage house, and they've got the New York State flags flying, and you got like a horse and carriage in front, and these bronze horses are everywhere with fountains. And it's different. You know, so it's not going to be Mickey Mouse in your face everywhere, but it's a different kind of feel. I enjoyed it. But it sits on the former site of the Disney Institute, which we all remember, which didn't last very long, and the former Lake Buena Vista Village and Fairway Villas and condos. So back in the day when it was the Lake Buena Vista Shopping Village, I guess that was the area where, I guess if they had conferences back in the day, they wanted people to stay or live there. That's kind of the area where Saratoga Springs sits at. It was the fifth DVC resort, Walt Disney World DVC resort constructed, and it's the 7th overall in the collection. And if you guys see the DVC preview, the DVC kiosk all throughout the theme parks, and you decide to take the tour, Saratoga Springs is home to the DVC Preview Center. So that's where they will take you in your private van is to Saratoga Springs to see the models of Alani and the Polynesian, whatever they have inside there. It's home to 1,260 studio units, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom villas, and it's also got 60 treehouse villas that are. The treehouse villas are part of Saratoga Springs Resort, even though it's separate. They're still all under the same umbrella. There are a bunch of different sections of Saratoga. It's the largest Walt Disney World Resort property in general. It's the largest DVC property as well. It's broken into a couple of different sections. One is Congress Park, which is the section which is closest to Disney Springs, which is pretty popular for people to walk to Disney Springs. There's the Springs section, which is closest to the carriage house and where the Turf Club is, and Artist Palette and the High Rock Pool, kind of like the main area of the resort is the Springs section. You have the Paddock section. That's the section that I stayed in. It's kind of it's right across from the Springs section. There's like a little bridge that connects between the Springs section and the Paddock section. It was a 5 to 7 or 8 minute walk to the main building. It wasn't that bad. I would stay in that section again because you're not all the way out in some farther spots, which would be the carousel or grandstand areas. But it wasn't a bad walk to get to the main the carriage house from the Paddock section. You also have the carousel and the grandstand sections as well. Just to give you guys some rack rates on just some of the prices I looked up online, they range from anywhere from $330 for a deluxe studio all the way to a 3-bedroom grand villa, which can run up to, they say, holidays up to almost $2,000 a night. So you've got rooms from the $300 level all the way up to the $2,000 level. So it's got rooms for all tastes, sizes, and wallets. The 60 treehouse villas, they were there originally. They were all gutted and redone, and they reopened back in 2009. So if you ever find some old Disney World footage, you'll see tree houses in there, but they kind of made them look like the old tree houses, but they're all like brand new inside. I've never been inside. My brother has stayed at the treehouse villas once with his wife and kids. Just to give everybody a little bit of fair warning, if you decide to stay at the treehouse villas, it's part of Saratoga Springs. However, you need to take a bus from the internal bus stops within the treehouse villas to the main Saratoga Springs property itself to transfer to a theme park bus. There's no theme park bus pickups from the treehouse villa sections. You either have to take an inter-resort bus or walk from the treehouse villa sections to the main Saratoga property. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. My brother did not know that when they booked it, and it was a nightmare with strollers and kids and all that stuff. He wasn't expecting that. So just something to keep, I haven't stayed there, but a little tip from one of my family members to your guys' families out there. There's 18 buildings overall. 12 were built new for Saratoga Springs. They reused some of the buildings from the Disney Institute from when they converted it over. Just some of the amenities that are out there. It's home to the Lake Buena Vista Golf Course, where Bob and I played our Sunrise 9. I think it's a great golf course. The pro shop is there, so if you're a golfer, the last couple holes, and I think number 10, border some of the rooms, so you can possibly have a golf course view. The course also does run through Old Key West as well. It has some tennis courts, has a fitness center. It's home to one of two spas, or one of the two Disney Senses spas. So my wife and I have gone to the Senses Spa at Saratoga. It's fantastic. It's also home to the Wynn Placer Show Arcade, which I always have to mention the arcades because I love them. Mm-hmm. And it's got 4 other different pool areas. Just some of the other amenities there. It has Artist Palette is it's like the eatery, it's the grocery component and market. It's not to be confused with Animator's Palette, okay? It's a lot different than that, okay? But they have the resort merchandise there. They have the DVC merchandise there. They kind of put it all into one, as like a one-stop shop. The grocery component's kind of small, so if you're going to be staying there, I wouldn't rely on that to get your groceries for the week. But if you want to go get some Saratoga merchandise or some just generic Disney merchandise or a cup of coffee, you could get it there at the Artist Palette. And it's usually open from 7:30 to 11 at night, so they got pretty decent hours. There's also the Turf Club Bar and Grill. I'm a fan of this restaurant. I've eaten there twice. It's not very popular at all. It's kind of dark just from the wood and the ambiance and how it's decorated. However, the prices are not super expensive. And it's a great piece of prime rib. That's one of my favorite meals to have there. Oh. Also with the Turf Club Lounge, I said this on the last DVC Roundtable. It's a small little bar outside the restaurant. It has a television. There's usually games on there, like in the fall, if you're into like watching the NFL games or college football games. Not very crowded because you have to go out of your way to find this place. So I think it's just a nice little hidden gem. If you just want to sit down, have a drink, and have a conversation, and watch your game, it's usually not too crowded. Just a couple other things. Since the resort is so big, there's a couple other little quick service. There's the Paddock Grill, which is over by the Paddock Pool in the Paddock section. And they have quick service breakfasts, and they do some lunch depending on the seasons, how busy it is. There's also the Backstretch Pool Bar, and there's also the On the Rocks Pool Bar, which is at the High Rock Springs Pool area, which is in the main area. They also have pizza delivery available from the South School of Pizza Express from 4 to midnight. So if you don't want to leave your room and you want to order a pizza late at night, that will deliver it just like the values do. You can get your pizza delivered. Just some of my other thoughts on it. The resort is big. Everybody tells you, this is, it's so big and this, that. It is a big resort. All right. It's not like you're staying at the boardwalk or a Bay Lake Tower where you can just walk. It's a big resort. I mean, you can get lost in the place. However, I didn't feel that bus service was a huge issue. Our building was kind of in between 2 different stops. It was like a 2-minute walk. I really never waited more than 5 or 10 minutes for a bus. The only time we ever had an issue is if you picked up a bus from the Springs area, because that's right by the main building, and it's usually one of the last stops they pick up when you're going to a park. So there was a couple of times when there was so many people waiting. This was during marathon weekend, to get on a bus to go to a park after the races were done. We actually Ubered it one time. So if you're staying in a spot that's not by the Springs, go to your bus stop, because you'll probably get on. If you wait to get to that last stop, you might not get on a bus.
That's a good point. Yep.
So I found that out, and we were just like, we're just gonna get an Uber or a Lyft, and we're just gonna get out of here. But it wasn't a bad walk from our section in the paddock to the main areas. This is not the type of resort where, and I had this where we had a problem getting my sister-in-law into her room where you could just run to the front desk real quick. We had a problem with her Magic Band not opening up her room, and I did not realize that there was a house phone at the entrance of the building. So I ended up getting in the car and driving back to the carriage house to see the front desk, where they informed me that there was a phone. But it's not one of those resorts where if you've got the refillable mugs and you want to send your husband or wife or your partner to fill them up or grab a quick snack, if you're not in the Springs area, it's going to be a challenge to get there. You either have to walk 5 or 10 minutes or get in your car or wait for the internal bus. So it's not like the boardwalk. You can run downstairs, or the Polynesian where you could run down to the Great Ceremonial House. It's not like that. So if you're looking for that kind of hotel experience, this is not the place for you. However, though, the proximity to Disney Springs is fantastic. We walked the one night, the night that, before the half marathon was supposed to be run. We went and celebrated at Disney Springs that we didn't have to run the next day, and it was about a 10-minute walk. It takes you right to the west side, or if you want to walk the other way, it'll take you to the marketplace side. So you can go either way. If you don't want to walk at all, you could take the boat service. Sasagula boat service is offered from Saratoga Springs, so you can take that down to Disney Springs, and you can either make connections to go to Old Key West or Port Orleans French Quarter / Riverside. It's a great resort for golfers. If you're going to be playing a lot of golf at Lake Buena Vista, you're right there. I thought the rooms, just get back to the rooms real quick, the rooms were furnished really nice. Our room was in pretty good shape. The colors inside are dark, though. It's a lot of dark woods and stuff like that, so it's not a bright room. So if you're looking for that bright room, you're not going to find that here. It's a very quiet resort. Unlike maybe the Bay Lake Tower or Boardwalk or Polynesian, it wasn't loud at all. I had no issues sleeping. There wasn't a lot of like commotion in the hallways outside. We had no problems with that at all. And that's pretty much it. You know, I think it gets a bad rap sometimes because of its location. Oh, and one last thing. I'm sorry. This is not one of those resorts where you could. You know, I've expressed to you guys, I've stayed at the Boardwalk a couple times, stayed at Bay Lake Tower. This is not one of those places where you could pop back to your hotel real quick to take a quick shower before going back to the parks. Right. This is the East Side version of Animal Kingdom Lodge. Okay, so
East Side Animal Kingdom.
This is East Side Animal Kingdom Lodge. This is one of those resorts where it's going to take you a good 30 to 40 minutes to get back to your resort. So if you're thinking, I want to pop in for a quick shower, like walking from Epcot to Boardwalk or Beach Club, this is not going to happen for you. That was the one
at Disney Springs.
Unless you're at Disney Springs,
which is amazing.
Unless
it's so Disney perfect Springs. For that.
But that was the one thing I really did not like about it was just it took so long to get to and from. I almost felt like almost like a day guest sometimes. Like, well, I'll bring a shirt with me because we're not gonna have time to come back and change because I like to change before I go to dinner. So I just felt like, you know, it was one of those I couldn't just pop back to the hotel real quick. But besides that, I think it gets a little bit of a bad rap. It's because it's so big. However, we really enjoyed it. We're probably gonna stay there again marathon weekend again this coming year. Just because we enjoyed it. But overall it's a great resort. Give it a try. There seems to be always availability there, which is not a bad thing. But yeah, it's a good spot. I mean, give it a shot because I think you'll be surprised.
Awesome.
I know I enjoyed being over there for the golf course. It is a beautiful, beautiful resort. Yeah.
Excuse us while I was golfing.
Well, you know,
Tim, you can drop the next time.
I know. Oh my gosh.
It's a good litmus test also for potential DVC members if you get the chance to stay there. Because if you find yourself saying, like, this is pretty nice, I like this place, I would be happy here if I was booking in a tight window, then you'll probably, it does, like Joe said, usually have availability. So if you're happy there, then you would probably be happy as a member. If you, like, I have a friend who has been wrestling with DVC, my friend Tara. You guys have all spoken with her.
Oh, Tara.
I thought we converted her last time.
We pretty much did. She's like getting really close to taking the plunge.
Nice.
But she does have fondnesses for specific resorts and does get nervous about the idea of not getting in there.
Sure.
So if that makes you too nervous and you just don't want to face the prospect of getting stuck, if you will, at one of the larger resorts with more availability, like Animal Kingdom or Saratoga, they tend to have more because they have more rooms, they have more availability. If that's not good enough for you, you may want to think about it before you start investing in DVC. But I would agree with Joe that it's a phenomenal resort. The one thing I would add, Joe, and you kind of touched on it, but Saratoga is a lot like Old Key West in that the units have their lower, they're not like freestanding hotel type things, so it's more like a condo complex, and it really will feel more like you own villas. So that's it's a different feeling,
which is interesting.
I love it. Yeah, it definitely sort of clues you into the ownership thing more than like I'm a resort guest, you know.
And from those of you who are not members but maybe considering it or are renters, Saratoga is one of my particular favorites because Saratoga, a number of the rental brokers will run specials when people have points to rent that are coming up for expiration. And a lot of times Saratoga will be the resort that you end up at because it typically always has availability. So for instance, a lot of times I'll pick up points for like $8 or $9 a point at Saratoga Springs. And so if you transfer that into money, the first week in April at Saratoga Springs for a standard room is a standard studio is 106 points. If you did that at $8 a point, you're looking at $850 for a week.
That's a bargain.
That's excellent.
You can't stay
really
in a value resort for that much.
And trust me, this is not a value resort.
And this is not a value. We stayed there. Yeah, we stayed there during I think side and loved it. And like I said, a lot of times you can pick up these last minute deals where the points are expiring. So if you're flexible in your travel, you can pick them up for $8 or $9 a point if you're renting, and literally stay at this beautiful resort. And those typically are the times, if we book them last minute like that, where a lot of times we actually may not even see the parks. Like we will do Disney Springs, we'll do all the eating, the great new restaurants down at Disney Springs, we'll do the pool, we'll do the nightlife there at Saratoga. We may not see a park, but maybe once or twice the entire week.
And one last thing too is it's such a big resort. It's very friendly if you drive your own vehicle. So for example, if you stay at like for example Boardwalk, I'll use that example. Boardwalk, the parking is very tough there. And you have to walk out to the parking lot. This you could essentially park your car right in front of your room.
Or in your room. It's fine.
Yeah, one of the things people have to. One of the things people have to kind of weigh is when they, for some people they'll go, well, there's always availability there, so people must not like this resort. That's not really it. It's because there's just the sheer number of rooms here. I mean, it's massive. But that's a good point, Joe, because you're talking about there's a ton of rooms, but there's 5 completely different communities, and they're spread out. And so you don't feel like you're in a resort that's that big. You feel like you're in a small little community, and there's a barbecue area in the back and a little
very similar to how you described Old Key West last month.
Yeah,
it has that,
except for even bigger
community feel. Yeah, it's
same kind of thing.
It's such a great, like Joe said, with the horses and even the pools have like the starting gates for the horse. It's a very cool ride.
Right. Yeah. And I think you mentioned it, Joe, but I just want to re-mention it if you didn't in these exact words. There are 3 feature pools. Like, it is really cool. You can go to one resort, visit 3 spectacular pools. We were naming individual pools at those other resorts. This place has 3.
Well, so like Caribbean spread out, it has some little small other pools to help the people that are on the peripherals, but not here at Saratoga. They're full-blown feature pools. I mean, they're nice. So,
and the great thing is, if you're doing, for example, the Dopey, and I did this. I did not when I did the Dopey, but I used to go and like to soak in the hot tub, to relieve the aches and pains of the muscles. There's so many pools at Saratoga that's so big that like the hot tubs are never crowded with kids or adults. It's just very quiet. So if you're doing like one of the challenge weekends for Run Disney, you'll have like essentially the pool and the hot tubs to yourself.
Oh, and for Emily, if you are a Dooney purse purchaser and you're looking,
I was going to say that
this gift shop, people sort of forget about it. So you can a lot of times walk into the gift shop and they'll have the purses when everyone else is sold out. I ran across that a couple of times.
Not anymore.
I know. That's
wow. Yeah, right. And because it's a DVC, because it's a DVC resort, they often have like the DVC exclusive ones that you can't find anywhere else either.
It's kind of there, and people, again, it's like Brad said, it's not a bad resort, but somehow it gets lost in the shuffle occasionally.
There you go.
That's how we know it's time to wrap the show. Tim, when you get to the Doonies, it's time to wrap the show.
Hey, before we let these guys go, I just want to say once again, thanks to Nick for his question and Phil for the comment.
Absolutely.
So that was very nice. If you guys want to ask our DVC Roundtable a question, please send it to Bob at ResortLoop.com or Tim at ResortLoop.com, and we'll or the website.
Anywhere.
Put the comment on the website, anywhere you want, and these guys will help you out. So. There you go. Tim, that's all I've got for these guys.
Excellent. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Hey, Rebecca, where can people find you?
People can find me pretty much anywhere, but specifically on Twitter at BeckyBerry73 and Facebook at BeckyBerry73.
Nice. Emily?
At First Comes WDW on Twitter, on the internet, and of course hanging out with you guys.
Love it. How about you, Joe?
Interwebs.
You can find me on Twitter at Joe Quiet. You can also find me over at the Resort Loop Rocketeers running team. We're still doing that over there, myself and Emily. And also you can find me with those great cast of characters over at the Mickey Dudes podcast. Go ahead and check us out. We have a good time over there as well.
Awesome. And Brad?
You can find me in my living room in Carlsbad, New Mexico. If you're driving through on your way to nowhere, just stop by. No, I'm Papa Mouse 1 on Twitter, and you can find me hanging out with the podcast, The Diz Dads. Have a good time. Come by and check us out.
Awesome. Everybody, thanks for joining us. This has been our DVC Roundtable show. Go out there. Be sure you subscribe to ResortLoop.com.
And don't forget, we're less than 1 month away from our Looper Meet 2017.
Yay.
No guarantees.
So jealous.
Tim or I will be in flannel. That.
Exactly.
Flannel PJs, but nobody will see.
You have no idea what we have in store for you.
And on that note, Tim, see you, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the show, but now you want to share your love of Disney, right? Unfortunately, a lot of our friends, family, and coworkers just don't share the same enthusiasm we do for all things Disney. Well, now MyDizMatch.com has made it even easier with the all-new MyDizMatch apps for iOS and Android devices. Just download the MyDizMatch app and connect with new Disney friends today. And now, for a limited time, you'll get your first month of full membership free just for signing up. Look for the new MyDizMatch apps on iTunes and Google Play and start connecting with real Disney friends today.
Uh-oh. Did Emily's kids get her?
Bueller.
She's been tied
Move
up.
her to the back of the line. Move her to the back of the line.
Now serving number 5.
I think we're going to have to skip Emily for now.
I think so. Emily, if you're there, we can't hear you. So we're just going to keep moving
Emily,
forward.
if you're there, we don't care because you didn't know what free dining was
Wow.
called.
Wow. Now, wait.
It's a name.
No,
It's dining and it's free. What do they call it?
Okay, that's it.
There she is.
Hey, Emily, I was coming to your defense. We can't call her out.
I heard you
She's not
start.
here. All right.
Sorry.
But now she's here, so go right ahead, everybody.
Yes.
right.
Emily,
Sure,
Poole,
I love
go.
waxing poetic. I was on mute. I just didn't want you to hear that poor dog barking.
Oh.
So it's like a conference call at work where you talk for like 20 minutes and then realize nobody heard anything. And it's weird because you didn't notice that they weren't responding. So